Good evening, and thank you for joining us. My name is Hank Stephenson. I'm a reporter for the Arizona Capitol Times, and I'll be the moderator for this evening's debate with candidates from the State House and Senate in Legislative District 10. The Citizens Clean Election Commission is the sponsor for this event. As the state's voter education agency, Clean Elections host debates, so voters have the opportunity to directly from candidates, ask questions on the issues that matter most to them, and vote informed. Candidates with the contested general election have been invited to participate in the debate. Candidates who opted into the Clean Elections Clean Funding Program are required to participate, while traditional candidates are invited and encouraged to attend. Please note, candidates from both the House and Senate are participating in the debate tonight. As moderator, I will ensure candidates have the opportunity to engage directly with their respective opponents. The questions that will be asked this evening are coming directly from voters. Leading up to the elections, conducted outreach to voters across the state, soliciting questions for the candidates. Voters watching this debate live, you can submit a question at any time. Do that through email, debates@kc-a.com, or you can text them in 928-362-1062, or you can call them in to 480-937-1297. Please specify if your question is for a specific candidate or for all candidates. We screen questions for clarity and to eliminate duplication, speeches, or personal attacks on candidates. The debate is scheduled for about an hour and a half, so we may not get to all audience questions, but we will do our best. Candidates, you will have 1 minute for your opening and closing statements and 1 to 2 minutes for your responses to questions. We encourage an open exchange of dialogue between opponents. If you feel the need to respond to another candidate's comments, you may do so. I may limit responses for time management purposes, and we remind the candidates and the audience that this is a respectful, courteous, and professional environment. Our goal tonight is to connect candidates and voters so our electorate may vote informed. All right, our candidates running for the state Senate are Democratic Rep. Kirsten Engel and Republican Justine Wadsack. Voters get to vote for 2 candidates in the state House race. Our House candidates tonight are Democratic Rep. Domingo DeGrazia, Republican Mabelle Gummere, Republican Michael Hicks, and Democrat Stephanie Stahl Hamilton. We'll go in alphabetical order, starting with the Senate candidates. And so you are up, Representative Engel, your opening statements.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you to the Clean Elections Commission for hosting this debate, and thanks to all of you viewers who are watching it online. I am proud to be running to fill LD10's Senate seat here in Arizona. It's currently filled by David Bradley, who has served our state well for the past 8 years, and I hope to continue his work, especially being an advocate for those who don't have a voice in our Arizona politics, especially our children, our next generation. I've spent my career as an environmental attorney, and I'm now working to teach the next generation of lawyers at the University of Arizona. I moved here in 2005 with my husband and my daughter. She's now a student in Tucson's public schools. During my 4 years in the Arizona State House, I've served as a ranking member of the Judiciary Committee and also the Environment and Water Committees, and I've also served on the House Ethics Committee. I've built a reputation for always having an open door, for working across the aisle without compromising my values, and for using my skills as an attorney to find solutions and negotiate better results for Arizonans. I've received top scores and awards from organizations such as the Children's Action Alliance, the Arizona League of Cities and Towns, and the Humane Legislator of the Year, not to mention endorsements from the AFL-CIO, the UFCW, the Sierra Club, Planned Parenthood, and the Tucson Metro Chamber of Commerce. When we go back to the legislature in January, we will have a lot to do, not only to address the immediate needs brought by the pandemic, but also the many issues that haven't been addressed Frankly, they've been ignored by the GOP majority in the legislature. I will continue to fight for fully funding our public schools, investing in affordable housing, fixing our impending water crisis, and addressing our overcrowded prisons and broken criminal justice system. And I look forward to this debate and your questions.
Thank you very much. Ms. Wadsack, you're up.
Hello, my name is Justine Wadsack, and I want to thank Clean Elections for hosting this debate. I am running for state senate in LD10, and I am 49 years old, but I've lived in Tucson my whole life with the exception of about 9 years in Chicago. I'm the wife of a retired U.S. Air Force major who spent 7 years enlisted in the U.S. Navy, and we enjoy live music and everything from punk rock to going to the Rialto, Congress Hotel, local bands at 191 Tool, Philip Glass, and Phoenix. So we have a real enjoyment of our Tucson city scape, I guess you could say. I'm a mother of 4 children, and they are between the ages of 17 and 27 years old. 2 of them are in the military. My daughter is in the process of separating and going to college to become a doctor. And I have 2 special needs children that are living at home. My son has type 1 diabetes, and he was diagnosed at age 5. And at the time, I was a single mother, and I literally realized that I had no access. I had no insurance. They dropped me because he had a pre-existing condition, and it was devastating. When you realize you have to spend $1,200 a month to keep your son alive, and he's 5 years old, it's a bit much. So that needs to change. My daughter is severely disabled. She's nonverbal. She's wheelchair bound, and she has the mind of a 3 to 6 month old. So if you can imagine a 17-year-old girl in diapers that is still spoon fed, that's my daughter. I've had her in public schools, and the public schools have failed her miserably. Her IEPs have been misappropriated. She's worth over $40,000 to the school system, and that money has never made it to her or to her teachers. We have 2 DDD caregivers that we utilize that are a mother and daughter team, and they are angels to our family. We don't view them as people who work for us or work for my daughter through the state. They care for her like their family. Why did I run? It started out as a very personal reason. And over the course of running for office for the last 1.5 years, I decided to go for Congress first because I wanted to change big things. There's a lot of abuse of power in our government. And as a citizen, I realized how vulnerable we all are. And when we don't have legislators or Congress people that we can count on simply because of party lines, citizens wind up getting hurt. And I got hurt. My family got hurt. And we had to sue the state for a 3-year litigation. We won, and I realized there's a lot of people like me out here, and I want to advocate for them. I've advocated for special needs children through the IEP process to ensure that their rights are protected because they have real problems here in TUSD. We have a lot of work to get done, and it will require us being able to reach across the aisle. And we have a saying in real estate, it's a win-win or no deal. The art of negotiation is the ability to see the big picture and to reach across and give a little bit and take a little bit. And if both sides don't walk away feeling like they were successful, it's not a win-win. Let's win together. Vote for Justine Wadsack for State Senate. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Wadsack. Next up, Domingo DeGrazia.
Hi, everyone. My name is Domingo DeGrazia, running for re-election to the Arizona House right here in Tucson at LD10. Thanks to the Citizens Clean Election Commission for putting this on, and thank you all for watching. I'm just about a lifelong Tucsonan. I grew up here in Tucson, went to our great public schools, and I went to Pima College before going off to Embry-Riddle for university. My dad was the artist Ted DeGrazia. My mom was a special education teacher, both on the reservation and here in Tucson. After I got my law degree, I came back and I practiced law here in Tucson in the foster care system. And I worked directly with the Arizona statutes. I worked with our laws, and I started learning how to take them apart, figure out what made the statutes work, why they came about. And that led me into appeals work, where I started having a more broad effect on the laws that affect Arizonans. And that led us up to the 2016 elections. And I knew at that point, because my stepdaughters were in high school and they were getting ready to graduate, I knew that there were going to be big changes, especially from the composition of our U.S. Supreme Court. So I knew I needed to help. I ran for the U.S. or the Arizona State House. I was elected and put onto the committees on judiciary with Representative Engel. I was on the Rules Committee, on the Government Committee, and on the Special Ethics Committee. And I'm excited to say that it's been a very educational time. It's been very eye-opening, but I'm ready to go back. I've got bills that are ready to go. So I'm looking forward to the debate tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative. Ms. Gummere, you're up.
Thank you. My name is Mabelle Gummere, and I'm running for the House for LD10. I have been a resident of Tucson since 1994 and have resided in LD10 for over 20 years. I was married here, and we raised our son here. I'm the mother of one son who is a professional land real estate agent in Tucson, and we have another son that is a CB. My husband served in the Air Force, and I worked for FEMA at one time. I am a businesswoman. I'm now retired. I have had numerous ventures and have sold in 3 states and 2 countries. So with that, I have extensive business experience, negotiation experience, and budgetary experience. 3 things that are crucial for bringing business to Tucson, for identifying and being able to negotiate or put together a deal to incentivize business that may want to come here and hire our people here, not just bring their people. I'm the daughter of immigrants. They came legally, and they raised me to be a very proud American and to respect my flag and respect my country. And I've worked for FEMA, like I said, in emergency disaster, which is very handy now in putting together something for our city, because everyone now is aware that they were not prepared. There's thousands that were, but overall, we saw what happened, and we need to get a plan in place, neighborhood plans in place, city plans, county plans, state plans, and be able to refill the coffer of the unemployment, which will take some creative design. So I'm asking for your vote. Mabelle Gummere for LD10, and I want to thank Clean Elections because I am running a clean elections campaign, and if it weren't for this program that was available, it would have been extremely difficult for me to raise the money. So I have no corporate money. It's all from Clean Elections. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Hicks, your opening statement.
Thank you. And again, thank you to the Clean Elections and the members of the panel here, and also to the viewers. My name is Michael Hicks, and I'm also a lifelong resident of the city of Tucson. I went to Keene Elementary School, Mansfield Junior High School, Tucson High, Cholla. I did go to Pima Community College. From there, I became part of the Students for Better Leadership at Pima Community College back in the day when we were having issues with the central accreditation agency and our board, Pima County Board. We ended up removing them and getting new ones in there. I started the student government at Pima Community College back up, wrote the new constitution that they had, which has since been rewritten again. I was the former traffic engineer, signal engineer for the city of Tucson. I worked for the city of Tucson for 23 years. I've been teaching at Pima Community College for over 30 years. I've been teaching computer science. I currently am also teaching motorcycle safety for Team Arizona with the Motorcycle Safety Foundation. And I'm also working with my main day job is with SunTrans, Sunvan, Sunlink as their ITS and MIS director. The reason I'm running for the State House is I love Tucson. As my foster father, Lou Murphy, who's the mayor of Tucson for over 16 years, loved Tucson. He instilled this into me. I want to see Tucson prosper. I want to see Tucson grow. I want to see Tucson become the sunshine city that it once was years ago, and that I believe it can become that again. I want to serve. I love this town. This election is very critical. There's issues that's going to be coming up. Education, as I said, I've been teaching. I also was on the TUSD school board for over 8 years, and I ended up becoming the president of the school board at the time of my departure. I do believe in term limits, which is why I left TUSD after 2 terms. I thought that was good enough. I believe I did a lot of work on TUSD that helped TUSD, not only TUSD, but also our citizens and our students there. We have currently, when you watch the board, you can watch them live stream. Before I was on the board, that was not there. Also, any policies that are created from the board needs to go through a process. Basically took it from the Pima Community College board policies. I think I'm the best candidate to run for LD House 10. I've lived in Legislative District 10 for over 23 years. I've been part of this community. I work hard. I'm willing to go to work on this. So I'm looking for your support, and I look forward to this debate. Thank you again.
Thank you very much. Ms. Stahl Hamilton, you're open.
Thank you. Thank you. And thank you to the Clean Elections Commission for hosting this debate, and for the people watching. It is a privilege and a pleasure to be with you all tonight. My name is Stephanie Stahl Hamilton, and I am a Democrat running for the State House Representative in LD10. What started out as very personal reasons for running have actually expanded over the course of time as I've been leaning in and working hard to serve my community. I am the wife of a public middle school teacher, career middle school teacher, the mom of 3 children who are coming up through the public school system. My oldest is now a student at the U of A. And I have 1 child in high school and 1 child, this will be her last year in middle school. My husband is a 3rd generation teacher in the state of Arizona. And as we like to say affectionately, it's the family trade. Everybody in the family is either an educator or married to one. Early on, when my oldest started attending school in kindergarten, I was very excited to attend my first PTO meeting. I was excited to be involved, to see how I could support our local neighborhood school. And from there, that quickly translated into serving on the site council at a time when Arizona experienced the deepest cuts in education, and from which we still have not recovered. And it was at that time that I spent the better part of 3 or 4 years wrestling with a diminishing budget monies for education, and having to make some really tough decisions on how my neighborhood school was going to proceed. At the same time that I was serving on the site council, I was also the executive director for the Presbyterian Church Camp for the whole state of Arizona, spending my summers interfacing with and serving children, teenagers, and young adults from all over the state of Arizona. And while fighting for my public school, I came to understand and realize how the state legislature had tied the hands of our local school board officials. And by the time the next legislative session was happening, I also was serving children from all over the state and began paying attention to the policies that were coming out of the state legislature, and had the names and faces of children from all over the state in my mind as I began advocating for better policies for our young people. While all of that was happening on a very personal front beyond education, my family has struggled for the better part of 17 years to find and provide health care for not only my children, but for myself. And again, you know, a lot of people think that's an issue that should be handled at the federal level. I believe there's more we can do in regards to healthcare, being able to provide affordable, quality healthcare to more people in our state. And it was because of these very personal issues I began getting involved and invested at the local level here in Tucson, not only with my local school district, but with the advocacy groups who interfaced with our legislative officials in office. So I spent a fair amount of time up at the Capitol, getting to know our leaders, getting to know our representatives and our senators, and engaging them in conversations and pushing back or pushing for better policy. And I not only have worked with advocacy groups, but I also have served the community at local levels, being appointed by the school board to the Family Life Curriculum Committee. So for all of these reasons that I have become involved, I'm excited to run for office. I'm excited to help our state take our resources and invest them in more sustainable ways for the future. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, let's get to the questions. Starting with the Senate candidates, and we'll just do the same questions, at least for now, for all the candidates, but we'll stick to this order for the time being. So Ms. Engel, you're up first. Representative Engel, you're up first. What is your #1 priority for Legislative District 10? And what will your first bill be if you're elected?
Thanks, Hank. My first priority will be to increase the amount of unemployment benefits that this state gives out. This is a top priority, and we have to address the fact that Arizona has the second lowest unemployment benefit in the country. And we now have almost 500,000 Arizonans who are out of work. We also need to invest in our State Department of Economic Security. I cannot tell you the number of phone calls and emails that I have received during this pandemic. People who have lost their jobs through no fault of their own, and yet are spending days on the phone to collect the benefits that they are entitled to because they invested in our state unemployment system. So right now, without the federal help, we're back down starting this week to what Arizonans get under Arizona law, which is a maximum. It's not even the minimum, it's the maximum of $240 a week. Now, rents are rising in Arizona, especially in our cities. You've got car insurance, you've got to get clothes and food, and that is just not a survivable wage. We hope that this pandemic, we will conquer it soon, but right now we are dealing with a lot of people out of work. And what we need to do is to make sure that they have the resources they need. The money is there. The money is there in the Unemployment Trust Fund. If we run out of that after a few months, we have CARES Act money. And as a last resort, we can always ask our employers to spend a little bit more to prop up that fund. So I think that will get the money into our economy. We actually had a bump when we had the $600 pandemic insurance from the federal government. But Arizonans are proud people. We want to be able to do it ourselves. We shouldn't have to be reliant on the federal government. And it really hurt us to have these very low levels, and especially the very small amount of money that you can earn in Arizona without jeopardizing your benefits, because that made it even more difficult for people to in Arizona to pull down some of that federal money, which we need to get into our economy to keep it strong. So that would be my first priority.
All right. Ms. Wadsack, What are you going to do if you get up to Phoenix?
The very first thing I'd like to do is I'd like to open our state. We have been closed far too long. We have businesses that are going out of business permanently. They will never open again. If we don't open these businesses, what is that going to do to the rest of our economy? I understand that there's the unemployment issue, and I agree with Representative Engel that we cannot live on $240 a week. And I think it's disgusting that our state government has allowed that $240 maximum to continue. I had to be on unemployment for a short while back in the early 90s when I had my daughter. And I'll tell you, it was, I believe, roughly $240 back then. So we've gone decades without changing our unemployment, and I couldn't live on the unemployment back then, much less trying to do it now. We are dealing with a crisis, and the crisis is a little different than perhaps what most people would imagine. We have a governor that has total power, and the bill that was the executive order that was put into place was by Governor Hall in 2002, and it was a complete overreach in government authority and abuse of power. It gave our governor complete and utter control. And our legislature has not been in session during this time, and I can't imagine why. We have Republicans that want to go back into legislature, but the Democrats don't want to go back in for special sessions so that we can try and hold the governor in check. We've gone too long without holding him in check. So I would like to see that executive order changed, and I would like to see protective measures put in place so that we cannot have a tyrannical leader that takes over, and because we need to remember there's a reason why we have 3 branches of government, and right now we're functioning with 1.
Thank you.
Hank, can I make a quick response?
Jump in there. If I could real quick, Ms. Wadsack, your audio is coming in very low, so maybe as we're going around, you can toggle with your settings. Representative, you're up.
Yes, I'd just like to clarify that, the entire Democratic caucus has asked not once but twice to go back to in a special session. We have been very adamant about that. We would like to go into a special session, but we want a special session in which we actually address the issues that are in front of us, the pandemic relief issues, and we also have asked for a special session on policing issues, and especially the problem of frankly, racist policing practices that we've seen. So we are in favor of going back into special session. So what we don't want is to go back to a free-for-all. Republicans brought us back in May. We didn't concentrate on the pandemic like we thought we should. Instead, we were talking about all kinds of bills that had nothing to do with the crisis in front of us. So we're ready to go back, and we're ready to work on pandemic relief.
All right. Mr. Representative DeGrazia, same question to you.
May I respond to that?
Jump right in there. Don't bother asking, just cut me off.
So I understand, and I think that is very partisan. I mean, we really need to be looking at the big picture. There's a lot of people that are hurting, a lot of people that need to have their businesses reopened without restrictions. We have mask mandates we need to address. We have, there's far more than just the defund the police and, talking about the Democrat bills. I understand that there's concern that the Republicans want to push their bills at that time, and I can understand that. But I'll be honest with you, this is not the time for politics. We need to open the state. We need to get our legislators back into session, and every one of the Democrats have not signed this. And I know there are a handful of Republicans as well, but you have a duty when you get elected to office, and it is to serve. And when we are in a pandemic and a crisis, it's your job as an elected service member to go in and represent, especially in a pandemic, especially in a crisis, and especially when we have totalitarian power at hand. So I disagree.
Well, these are not partisan issues. This is pandemic relief. I'm ready to work on those.
No, I'm sorry, but police, as you said, racist police measures. That's not according to the pandemic. That has nothing to do with the pandemic. So let's open the state. Stop the masks. That's what we need to discuss.
All right, Representative DeGrazia, what are you going to do if you're reelected?
Thanks, Hank. So the priority bills that I have in a normal year, it would be things like fully funding public education, looking at healthcare, good jobs, protecting the economy, criminal justice. But right now, I'm leaving my priority open to pandemic relief in whichever form that takes. We know that the landscape that we're looking at now, as far as how the pandemic has affected our citizens, is way different than it looked in March. And I expect that in January, it's going to look different than it is now. So I'm ready to go back and work on that. I do have a bill that's ready to go as far as business liability, which gives businesses the ability to understand what their obligations are, what their liabilities are, and makes it more clear how they can reopen while protecting their workers, while protecting their customers, so that we can reopen Arizona in a safe way. Thanks.
All right. Ms. Gummere, what will you do if the voters send you up to Phoenix? First priority, and specifically for the district, if you've got something, and first bill.
Well, first of all, I'm concerned about the education funding for K through 12. They are not getting any of the lotto money. And this has been going on from the inception of the lotto money that turned over to the Board of Regents. And as it's used and as it's divided up and absorbed, we don't get anything for K through 12. There are millions and millions of dollars every year that could go to K through 12 without having to raise taxes or sweep tax money from here or there on the budget. They are buying, and I love the U of A also, but we need money for K through 12. And they're buying properties. They're buying many properties that they're holding on to. The U of A is also opening satellite U of A's around the country. That money leaves here. It never comes back here. It goes back to the U of A, but they're not hiring people from Tucson, and those students are not going to work here afterwards. So just to take to take all of this and put together a bill so that the legislature can make the change that's needed to be able to appropriate some of these funds for K through 12. And that would be the first one. I am very concerned about the recovery of this pandemic. We must open everything. We have to open everything. It is crumbling. I would say that more than probably 60% of the businesses that closed are not going to reopen. We have people moving from other states with money coming in. We have a low real estate market right now. Our inventory is very low. Everybody's picking everything up, which is not good for Tucsonans because it drives the price up. And I've sold real estate for over 40 years, and I know how this works. I've been through many a recession, and we need to grasp this now. The recovery is going to take incentivizing businesses that we want to attract that will hire people here. And I mean, in a nutshell, that's pretty much it. I mean, I could talk about it all day, but
unfortunately, we've only got an hour and a half. Thank you.
Right. Okay.
Mr. Hicks?
Well, thank you for that question. Some of the things that I want to work on, first thing is economic development for Tucson. We need to look at getting more economic development within our region. As was said by Ms. Engel and everyone else, the pandemic is an issue. We need to get things open, but we also need to bring in more businesses. I believe that individuals don't want to be collecting unemployment. I believe individuals want to earn their money. So the way you do that is you bring in business into the city of Tucson or into our region. And I can guarantee we can bring in over $2 billion worth of new investment into the city of Tucson and bring in better higher paying jobs. Be able to hire these individuals, they'll go to work, they'll be making their living through there. We need to work on the pandemic, absolutely. I do take some issues with how our governor distributed his powers to the mayors of our cities and neglected his power. We just had an individual who got slammed by the Pima County for having a complaint on that. We need to be able to fix this for our local businesses. Our local businesses are crumbling. Our local businesses is dying here. The other thing is education. Again, I am an educator. I did put my money where my mouth is. I did join the Tucson School District as a board member. We need to be able to work on getting better education for our children, not just a standard education. We continue to lower the bar of our education to our students. We need to raise the bar of our students. We need to build more private public partnerships, even within our educational system. As was said, most of our students who are leaving the University of Arizona is leaving the state of Arizona for other jobs. We have a major contractor here with Raytheon who is also moving things outside of the city of Tucson, outside of Southern Arizona. These things we need to work on and be able to bring in and be able to support our individuals and our citizens. Our citizens don't want to rely on food stamps. Our citizens don't want to rely on unemployment. They want jobs. They want to be able to afford their homes. They want to afford their health care. These are things that I want to work on first thing when I get elected.
All right. Ms. Stahl Hamilton, what will your top priority and first bill, if you've got one figured out?
Sure. Yes, no, top priority for sure is how we move forward from the effects of the pandemic. That is the issue that is at hand. I do think a way forward means putting in place smart practices, putting in place the things that are going to help the everyday person return to work in a safe manner. It does us no good to open up and rush back to jobs if people only get sick and we have to close down again. So first and foremost, I think how we proceed forward needs to be strategic. It needs to be safe. If we have learned anything from this pandemic, we have learned that it is the everyday dollars of everyday people in Arizona that drives the economy. If people do not have money to spend, they can't spend that in the businesses, in the restaurants. So first and foremost, we've got to be able to help people earn their own money. And the way we do that is smart and safe. So that's a way forward for me with pandemic recovery and relief. But the bill were there no pandemic that really is resides close to my heart, and I've already started working on it, and it will be the first bill I sign my name to, and that will be to extend the income guidelines, the indexing for kids care. Right now we have 2.5% of children in Arizona that qualify for the Kids Care Program. That's our state's children's health care insurance program. And that is allocated for families who make too much to have their children covered by Access, but they do pay a premium and pay for their health insurance. And right now, 2.5% is not a whole lot of families who can provide health insurance for their children. And there is a way to increase that. And that will be my first priority, is to make sure that we can at least double the amount of families whose children can be covered by our health insurance program for our children in our state.
All right. Okay. So I want to ask about unemployment benefits, but I don't want to spend an hour on this. It sounded like there was some bipartisan agreement that these need to be increased. So the question, and I just want a number. If you need a sentence or so to explain it, take it, but let's keep this short. Lightning round. How much should our unemployment benefits be? They are $240 a week right now, capped at $240 a week right now. Above only Mississippi. And I think let's start with Representative Engel. What's the number?
$490 a week, which is half of the average wage in Arizona.
All right, Ms. Wadsack.
I would like to see the unemployment distributed based on the income that that person was getting, because if they're making more on unemployment than they were working a full-time job, they are not incentivized to go back to work. So I think that we need to also remember the people who make a lot more money. And if they get on unemployment, how do they even pay for their house? How do they pay for their car? So there needs to be a sliding scale, in my opinion, based on your income.
And where should that scale be capped?
I think it should be capped at roughly $600–700 a week.
Okay. Representative DeGrazia?
$490.
$490. That's 2. Ms. Gummere?
$550. I think that the unemployment fund is going to have to be replenished. Going to have to rework that whole system of how it's being looked at, because it is very, very true that if you're making more than you were, then there's no motivation to go back to work. I think the timeline of the unemployment, the deadlines for it, those will need to be adjusted, and the pay-in would have to change probably a year from now. I think it's too early to do something like that, but it will have to change. This will affect everyone, and it's just going to have to be. You can't pull money out of thin air. But I think that would be the dollar amount that I would be, but it has to be looked at, because like I said, and like Justine was saying, you can't pay someone more than what they were making, and some people need more. Okay, thank you.
All right, Mr. Hicks, what's your number?
I also agree with a sliding scale, and I believe the number should be capped up at $500 a week. Again, I don't want to incentivize people to not work. If you pay them more than what what they have been making or what they would make going back to work, then they're going to stay off of work. And I know a few people who have indicated that, who got unemployment plus the $600 a month also on top of that, or the $600 more. They were making more on this than going back to work, and they were asked to come back to work, and they said no. So I believe also sliding scale, we need to look at those independently. It's not one cap fits everybody. So I believe that we need to look at the sliding scale and cap it at 500.
Okay, Ms. Stahl Hamilton?
Yes, I think having a cap only addresses part of the issue, and I think it's only answering part of the question. Not only, I stand with Domingo and Kirsten at 490, but that's only one question we should be asking. The second question we should be asking and looking at is that we have one of the highest thresholds to even qualify for unemployment insurance in this state. So not only is it hard to qualify and we have low payments, we need to adjust who qualifies. And I think that also addresses the issue of equitable distribution.
I know you didn't want cross. Can I jump in just to say,
yeah,
I think that is, I'm really glad that Stephanie brought that up, because that's really important for the workers, our gig workers. A lot of our economy is kind of a gig economy right now. You think of your Uber drivers, they don't qualify for unemployment at all. And so their only means of a benefit during this pandemic was through those federal benefits. So we do need to look at the whole system here. And I also want to clarify that when I said 490, I was talking about that as the maximum. It would also be a sliding scale.
We could do
I
a
have a
whole
question
debate
for
on
Ms. Engel.
unemployment. Sorry, go ahead, Mr. Hicks.
Do Uber drivers put into unemployment?
I
don't believe so.
I don't think so. I don't
Okay.
think so. Right. Right.
Exactly.
Well, okay,
Thank
but
you.
when they're, but Michael,
don't
but
pay
when they're out of work, they're not feeding their families. They're not putting clothes on their kids' back. We do need to have a social safety net for everyone in our economy. And the gig workers are becoming a very large part of it. We could create something. That's a great idea. I'll work with you on that legislation. We could have a gig economy where they do actually put money into it.
Right. I believe you have to have stake into something before you can get something out of something. You never get something for nothing. I was taught
well, that just shows we've got to fix the system.
Absolutely. I totally agree with you.
Talk about the gig workers, all our musicians. I know musicians that are living in storage units right now. Musicians, live music people, the light stage hands, sound people, you know, all of those people are out of work and they didn't get unemployment. I tried to help people that weren't getting unemployment that were in the beverage industry. And many of the restaurants don't pay into unemployment, so these people were out of luck. So there are a lot of holes that are left behind that we need to address, and it shouldn't just be that you pay into it. There should be something else done to reach out to more people than what we are.
Okay, so I want to ask about returning to school during the pandemic.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
Guess we had a little technical difficulty. So the question is, what kind of resources do schools need to reopen safely, and what is your plan to get those schools those resources? And let's change up the order. Ms. Stahl Hamilton, why don't you go first, and we'll just do reverse.
The resources that we need to open schools safely are I think Pima County actually has one of the best guidelines in place for our health department, the metrics that are necessary for opening. And a couple of those things are, number one, we need to know that the spread is down below 0.5%, at least people testing positive. We need to know that there are cleaning measures in place. And the biggest concern, which I think makes it the hardest for schools throughout the state, is the HVAC systems, how our air is filtrated and circulated through the schools. And that is what makes it the most challenging. If there is not access to fresh air coming into our buildings, it is going to be hard to contain the spread of this disease. And so for me as a mom and the wife of a teacher to feel comfortable, I need to know that in general throughout our state, and especially in our community, where my children will be attending schools and where my husband will be teaching, that we've contained the spread to a level that matches the metrics of our county health department.
Well, we do realize that we don't have any more cases coming up. We were negative yesterday. So it's time to open the schools. This has just become ridiculous. Herd immunity, follow the science, etc. We need to reopen the schools before kids are not going to go to public school anymore. They're going to be taught at home. or they're going to go to private schools.
Ms. Gummere, what resources do schools need in order to be able to open safely? And how are you as a lawmaker going to get them those resources?
We need to open the schools. If there is a case or two, I mean, there aren't any cases now anymore. I mean, it's more of fear that it is. We just have to open the schools. We're going to get money from the government so that we can give them money, the school districts. We need to get that lotto money. We're not getting any of it, never have gotten any of it for K through 12. So this pandemic, it's no, I mean, when I was a child, we had polio, you know, and then there was a tuberculosis scare. And, you know, this is just the way the world is. We're going to survive this. Not everyone will survive it, but we need to open the city and the schools, or it's just going, financially, it's collapsing. You know?
All right.
So I'm in favor of opening the schools. And children recuperate a lot faster. It's the older people that are, or compromised individuals, that need to take more measures to protect themselves. If you're concerned, if you're sick, if you're compromised, stay at home.
All right, Mr. Hicks, you are on the school board. What kind of resources do schools need to be able to open safely?
Well, not only was I on the school board, but I'm also an educator. I do educate. I currently am still an educator. I also believe that we need to be back in schools. I believe what resources are needed are the same resources that we've had before for the other illnesses that comes through. Although this is a pandemic, it's a little bit different in regards to the influenza, but the influenza's flu's coming on scene now. It's proper cleaning, it's proper hygiene. We need to make sure that we have the tools in our classrooms when kids are coughing or whatever, if they're wearing a mask. I don't believe in the mask. The N95 only does so much, and my understanding from the science, the COVID is less than 95. It's at like 0.3, which can get through your mask. So it's more of a, I do believe in staying home if you're sick. If you're sick, you stay home. So I do believe, I do agree with Ms. Gummere in regards that we need to reopen our schools. I just think that having the proper tools in there, such as cleaning tools, tissues. I mean, currently our teachers have to go out and buy tissues. They had to buy tissues before this whole pandemic. We need to make sure they have those cleaning materials in their classrooms, and we move forward. I believe most parents want schools to reopen. I know many parents who want their children back in schools. I know many children who are just unbelievably, they're gaining bad habits because they're not in school, they're not interacting with their friends. And I agree, I think we have to reopen the schools, but we need to reopen them with the proper tools, such as good sanitation and also good hygiene.
Okay, Mr. DeGrazia, same.
Thanks, Hank. So to reopen schools, obviously we have to do it safely, and we have to do it based on the science and the data. And everyone on here that says that we have to have cleaning supplies and proper PPE recognizes that we're in the middle of a pandemic and that it's a dangerous pandemic that threatens health. So at least we've got that part out of the way, but we do need to make sure that the teachers have PPE that they need, the personal protective equipment. We need to make sure that the cleaning supplies are readily available and they're not coming out of teachers' pockets. And they're not coming out of the general education fund. We need to make sure that schools locally have money for structural improvements to keep and to make sure that we maintain social distance. And we need to make sure that we're looking at either air filtration systems that can capture the virus or something like we're looking at a UVC, which is it's going to look promising as far as killing the virus that's airborne. Now, I will note that Arizona is at an RT and R sub T right now, which is a rate of spread in the community of 0.93, which is just under 1. As Ms. Stahl Hamilton pointed out, we need to be at least 0.5, so we're still at a risk factor. And I will also point out that Arizona right now is number 4 worst in the nation per 100,000 people of the rate of cases, and number 10 in the nation per 100,000 people, 10th worst for the number of deaths. We are nowhere near in a good spot here. We are still in the middle of a pandemic, and we need to make sure that our schools have the support they need to open safely. Thanks.
All right. Senate candidates, same question. Ms. Wadsack, why
I'd like to add something to that.
Jump in there.
Said, you know, if we can go to Walmart and they can do demonstrations and they can riot and they can do, nobody complains about that. It's okay to do all of that. Nobody wears masks. It's okay. Nobody put a stop to that. But we're not opening schools because why? We just don't have that many people sick. And if you're sick, stay home.
All right. Ms. Wadsack?
First, I want to make sure, are you guys able to hear me? I'm having
It's low. If you could speak loudly, I think that's the best we can do with one of these things.
I've been trying to figure out, my sound seems the same on my end, but so when it comes to education, right now, our children are suffering, our parents are suffering, and quite honestly, all I ever hear from legislators and politicians is what we need to do for the schools and the teachers, but we need to do more for the parents and the children. We have a lot of children that are going into severe depression. A lot of suicide is going to start becoming on the rise. And really the solution is simple. Open the schools. Stop with this mask mandate for children. There's nothing that has proven that they are spreading the disease, if you will. And we need to understand that children need to be able to be children again. Parents need to be able to work again. And I understand that there's the argument that this school is not a daycare. Parents don't look at school as a daycare. They look at school as someplace where their children go to be educated, and they have a right to work and provide for their family. So that argument won't fly with me. Arizona legislature designed something called Empowerment Scholarship Accounts, which is ESA, and it was created for special needs children, children of military families, also of children who are on native reservations or are in failing schools. And it's time to expand ESA. ESA needs to go to every student in Arizona. This doesn't mean that it's going to drain the public schools. I know that everybody's afraid, that it's going to mean public schools are going to disappear, and that's just not the case. But what COVID-19 showed us is that this is the time, that this is a need for change. And you want to talk about the new normal? Let's create a new normal for education. And COVID-19 showed us that parents don't have options. So Democrats want to see the charter schools defunded. They want to see the police defunded, and that's all being built into requisites that are Red for Ed and other union teachers are demanding that they won't go back to school until these criteria are met. And that's not putting the children and the parents first. So we need to not muddy the waters. We need to open the schools, give the parents the opportunity to have school choice, and you'll find that teachers have the opportunity and they stand a chance to make far more money in the school choice programs, the way I've seen them laid out, than they are in the public schools where the districts get to allocate where their money goes. And you see the pockets of the administration lined healthy with lots of dollar bills, and teachers are suffering. So let's work for the parents, the children, and the teachers. Open the schools.
All right. Representative Engel?
Yes, I just like to say, when we're talking about our children, a statement like, not everyone's going to survive, is just not acceptable. I'm sorry, I am not going to accept that. These children's lives are are in our hands, and we have to do what we need to do to protect them. I'm not willing to say, whoa, go ahead and, you know, lose a few children here, that's an acceptable thing for an elected official to say.
I really don't think people are saying that. I didn't hear anyone say that they want children to die. I have children, and I take offense to you making that assumption.
I have to agree.
I wasn't saying that with respect to your comment, Michael.
Okay.
It was a different candidate on this program, and I don't want to personalize it. So, but the schools do need money to be able to adequately protect the kids. And, you know, there's a lot of expenses here, excuse me, you know, just from PPE to, we have a lot of kids that do not have laptops. They are living in parts of the city that they do not themselves have internet. We have kids, you know, walking to libraries to sit outside to be able to catch the internet. We have a lot of IT needs for the kids right now. We've had a lot of just resources to have the teachers get their classes and their curriculum online. And of course, we have the facilities issues. We have something like $1 billion of unpaid repairs that we need to do, you know, plumbing and HVAC systems. And then you put on top of this the pandemic, where you really, for safety, should have a top-notch working HVAC system. Not to mention, it's getting very hot in Arizona. So there's a lot of expenses here. And I have to say that the way the governor structured the funding for the schools really placed, I think, a bit of an unfair incentive on schools to open up too quickly before they had gotten these resources to be able to make it safe for the kids to come back. Otherwise, I think we leave this to the school boards.
If I can just clarify in regards to the individuals who may not understood what facilities was, Ms. Engel was talking about the school facilities fund that is throughout the state that's supposed to take care of our schools, that school districts can get funding from to be able to set up their schools and maintain their schools. So I just wanted to explain that. So thank you for that. And yes, the school facilities fund is well below what it should be. Thank you.
But what I'm seeing happening right now, and I speak to a lot of parents, is two things. One, the schools are just going to empty. They're going to withdraw their children and wind up homeschooling because they're tired of sending their children to schools with masks on and being separated and segregated. There are lawsuits that are happening that are going on statewide right now against the governor because of the restrictions with our schools. There's no reason to keep our schools closed to this degree. And when you talk about funding, let's talk about IEP for a minute, because IEP is directly related to ESA. And I can tell you with firsthand knowledge that my daughter is worth about $40,000 to TUSD every year. And not once did we see those that funding money, that income to the school district actually benefit my daughter the way it was supposed to according to the IEP. So our special needs children are being robbed by our school districts, and that money is being misappropriated. So there is a lot to investigate. There's a lot to uncover about how this money is being spent. It's not that cut and dry of saying we need more billions of dollars going to schools, because I want to know where the last several billions of dollars went when we still have teachers that are saying they're not getting paid. I want to know why teachers aren't getting paid. They should be getting paid by now. They walked out in 2018 and were given a raise over 2 years, and I'm still hearing that they didn't get their money. So let's stop paying administrators $450,000 and start giving raises to the teachers.
All right, I got, I don't know, a half dozen follow-up questions on this from the audience. They really like this stuff. So let's do one and let's make it quick. Do you support mandatory masks? One word, one sentence. In schools, I'm sorry. When schools reopen, do you support mandatory masks? And Representative Engel, good place to start.
If it's anytime soon, yes. They're effective, they protect our children, And yes, we should have them. A lot of kids may not be showing that they're sick, but they may actually be contagious. And so we need to protect the other kids. We have to protect the grandmothers and grandfathers who take care of them and other kids. So yes, I do support that.
All right, Ms. Wadsack?
It's not that cut and dry. We have a lot of children that are special needs that cannot wear a mask. Try telling a child with autism to keep a mask on, and I don't understand it. It becomes arbitrary when you're telling every child to put on a mask, but you're allowing special needs children to not wear masks. It's kind of the old, why do we have children going in the door with masks on, temperatures taken, sit at their desk, wear masks all day, and be in a cubicle of acrylic, and then they have to go home, and that's when they get to take off their mask 8 hours later. But you and I can go to a sushi restaurant and walk in the door with our mask on, sit at our desk, take our table, take off the mask, and eat sushi and cross our arms across the table and eat all night, and that's okay. These arbitrary rules are no longer acceptable, and we need to be thinking about our children's mental health, and they have a right to be children. It's time to stop this. I do not agree with mandatory masks.
All right. Mr. DeGrazia, when schools reopen, Representative DeGrazia?
Yes.
All the kids wear masks?
Yes.
All right. Ms. Gummere?
I'm not for mandatory masks.
Okay. Mr. Hicks?
I believe it should be a parent's choice whether or not their child wears a mask or not.
Okay. And Ms. Stahl Hamilton?
Yes, and until the science dictates otherwise.
All right. Let's stick on the topic of education. I want to ask you guys about your opinions about the Invest in Education initiative. Aims to put about $900 million into K-12 education by increasing the tax rate for those earning over $250,000 or $500,000 for couples. But I bet I can guess your positions. So tell me if I'm wrong. The Democrats support this and the Republicans don't. I might be wrong. The real question here is, if you support it, is that enough money for our education system to solve our current budget problems, or are you going to be seeking more money in the near future? If you don't support it, do you believe that we need more money for our state education fund, for our state education system, and what is your plan to get us more money? And let's start with Ms. Hamilton, Stahl Hamilton.
Yes, thank you for that question. I absolutely support Proposition 208. And I will tell you, the more than $900 million that will come in so our education system funding is a patchwork of funding, and where the money is dedicated from this proposition will go a long way to address teacher salaries, support staff salaries, our career and technical education. And so that will address a specific portion of underfunded needs within our public school system. Now, what it doesn't take care of is deferred maintenance, our facilities. It doesn't take care of things that are outside of the needs that we have from the very beginning, when bus drivers get on those buses, to cafeteria workers, to the people who clean our schools for us, to our monitors. This takes care of a very specific need, but as you can see, there's so much more that goes into educating every single child. So I support this for all that it will do, but we still need to address the shortfalls within our facilities and within our technology and other areas of our school.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Hicks?
Oh, yeah, I think you guessed right. No, I'm not in favor of it. I'm more in favor of having more public-private educational partnerships with our businesses. I think putting an undue tax on individuals is absurd. Why not do anybody who makes over $25,000 a year pay, 5% of their pay to our schools? It's arbitrary. I don't think that this was very well thought out. I think that it's going to lose in courts, and I think it's going to lose within the ballot. I think we need to think of other ways of being able to help our public schools. We have more and more charter schools popping up by my house. Our charter school that's right by my house just erected a large 3-story building, additional building than what they had. There's a reason for that. These charter schools don't do this out of the goodness of their heart. They are making money on this. We need to fundamentally look at what's going on in our public schools and what's being taught in our public schools. Because this is why and again, as a board member of TUSD and as an individual who went through TUSD's system, I see where we kept losing children. We keep losing, we keep losing, we keep losing, we keep losing children. Take a look at TUSD just for instance. We have lost more we've lost more kids than what we have now. We
Mr.
need
Hicks.
to start thinking of other ways of getting funding and also how we're teaching within our schools.
Yeah, I want to get back to the funding. I mean, what other ways of getting funding?
Public-private partnerships with our businesses. If we build these in, then those funding can be set up for the schools. The businesses can be putting money into our schools and then returning back our children and the education of that. So if we build our public-private partnerships, I think that we can do better within our educational system. And also, the legislature needs to be watching what we do within our public schools. I bring you back to the 301 instance just a few years ago when I was on the school board, where I had an individual who was in charge of our school district taking money from the teachers and putting it somewhere else. It happens. We need to be making sure that the money that the school districts are getting now is going to where they're supposed to be going right now. And I can tell you, I see shaking no, I can tell you, yes, it doesn't always go to where it's supposed to be going. I did the 301 issue and I found out, and the teachers found out that they were getting raped on the money being taken away from them and that the money that they weren't getting. So we need to be looking at this more closely. We need to be watching the financials of our school districts a little bit more closely. I believe in local control, but I also believe in good quality distribution of the money that is being brought forward to our schools.
All right. Ms. Gummere?
Okay, we all pay taxes. And education is an investment by everyone. If you think that you're going to tax people that make $500,000 or $250,000, there are ways to avoid that. You don't have to pay it out of a company in Arizona. I mean, the worst thing you can do is go after people that invest in retail in our economy, that hire landscapers and housekeepers and that work in all the offices or all the businesses that you have, and chase them away because you're going to tax them more. I mean, it doesn't work. If it's like when they say, well, tax the 1%. Do you think the 1% keeps their money in America? Really? It doesn't work that way. And instead of raising money, reducing the costs of operation, how many schools are not going to be used? Because people are leaving the schools. I'm not in favor of that bill. It penalizes specific groups of people, and I'm not for that. It's bigger than that, and that's just not the way to get the money. but I'm a business person and I solve problems, and I've always been successful solving problems and raising money. So maybe I just look at it a little bit differently, but there are many ways to not alienate people that bring capital here and bring business to try to fix. You have to know how to make money to be able to fix these problems.
So I want to ask you, do you believe that schools need more money?
Absolutely. And I've reiterated that a couple of times. That needs
Then what is your plan to get them more money?
It has to be taken care of at the legislative level. We need
All right.
a bill.
Mr. DeGrazia, Representative DeGrazia.
Thanks, Hank. Yes, I support the Invest in Ed initiative, and whether it's going to be enough to properly educate our kids, which is our constitutional mandate here. It's written into our state constitution. We likely won't know that for a couple of years. Where because of the pandemic, the numbers as far as what our tax revenue will be is going to be unstable for a bit. And also what our schooling is going to look like, whether kids are going back to school full-time or part-time, or they're going to be remote, that's also going to be a bit unstable. So it's going to take a handful of months, if not years, to get a good handle on how much revenue is going to be coming in, how much revenue is going to be needed. And then we need to compare that against what our vision for our children is and what level of education that we want them to have so that they do stay here and that they do have companies that come in that will employ them after they graduate. Thanks.
Okay. And to the Senate candidates, Ms. Wadsack, the question is, if you do not support Invest in Ed, do we need to increase state funding for our education system? And if so, what's your plan?
I do not agree with Proposition 208. It has failed once before, and it almost didn't make it on the bill because it was not transparent enough in its language. They've fixed that now, but it still is not transparent enough in what its intentions are. Where is the accountability? Who is overseeing what this $1 billion in tax revenue goes to? We've seen in too many years in the past where, you know, we give education millions and billions of dollars, and people are still complaining that they're not getting enough money. They don't have what they need. The schools are still in disrepair. The teachers are still not getting paid what they should be. I think it's very important to know and understand that Proposition 208 intends to defund ESA. It intends to get rid of charter schools. It intends to get rid of parents' choice. And so parents will now have to go to the school that is in their zip code, whether they're in a failing school district or not. That does not change. A 3% tax on people who make $250,000 or more. You know, I don't know if anybody else has noticed, but Tucson has had a lot of money coming into this state. And I'll tell you, people are not going to be happy about having a 3% tax added. And on top of that, small businesses are going to be the ones who are going to be paying more in taxes than corporate businesses. They're going to be paying double from corporate at 8% rather than 4.9%. So that's not going to incentivize having new businesses coming into our state, and that's what we want. We want them here. There are many options that can be via micro schools, pod schools. There's also online curriculum, and a lot of parents are realizing now in an age of online curriculum choices, you know, they can go with the TUSD curriculum or they can go with the Ron Paul curriculum. You know, there's many different options out there, and they're starting to look at away from public schools. So let's stop burdening this issue and do an audit, and we need to look and see how the money has been spent in the past and do some reappropriation of funds so that, and that's one way we will recoup a lot of money, because right now it's just, I think it's going into personal funds. There's just nothing, there's no showing for it. So
An audit.
We need an audit.
All right, Representative Engel.
Yes, I am very much in favor of the Invest in Ed initiative. We know that our schools have been chronically underfunded. We're still not at the level of funding we were in 2008, the Great Recession. That's now 12 years ago. And there's this thing called inflation. So we have not kept up, and we are seeing it in our economy. So if you have a business background, you should be for this, because this is how we will get an educated workforce. 12% of the Invest in Ed funds actually go to career and technical education. So it is money for our schools. It's also going to allow us to finally address that teacher shortage we have, which has only gotten worse. 24% of the vacant positions, of positions that are listed in our schools are vacant right now. 1,800 people, 1,800 teacher positions are not filled. And it makes sense. If you can go across the border to Nevada or New Mexico and make $10,000 to $20,000 more a year, why wouldn't you do that? Why would you stay in Arizona? So yes, we do hear about this issue every year, and that's because we haven't fixed it. And the Republican-controlled GOP in the legislature refuses to put the money we need into our state budget. We have Prop 108, which requires a supermajority in both legislative houses for us to raise any kind of revenues. And so the people have taken it into their hands. Over almost 500,000 people signed this petition. Again, this is after 2018 and 2020 to get this on the ballot, because it will raise almost, not quite, $1 billion for the schools. That's not even the $1.2 billion that would get us back to the recession. And it's fair. Right now, it is a tax only on the income that an individual makes above $250,000 or above $500,000. And disproportionately, poor people with lower incomes are disproportionately paying their income in taxes. So this is fairness, and it's a pretty small amount. On average, people making over $250,000 will pay just $30 more as a result of this initiative. I think what it can do for our schools, that is well worth it. It will benefit everyone, especially our economy and businesses.
If I can clarify on mine, as the board member, the only board member on this that was on TUSD School Board, I did support the Reddit for Ed when they did the walkouts. Just to be clear on that, I did support that. I voted to allow them to do that, and I voted to go ahead and pay them for that. I think the Invest in Red has gone further than what it initially started. And to clarify, and TUSD itself, we've seen over a 26% reduction in our students at TUSD. We still maintain $54 million in the desegregation funding. Some people think the desegregation funding comes from the state and comes from the feds. No, it comes from local taxes. I think that we need to start looking at the way that our schools are distributing that money. Again, I remember 301, and I remember a couple of other ones that were back before the 301 issue, before I was even on the school board. I think we need to look at those. Also, there needs to be accountability. I'm not going to support anything that does not have strict accountability for where the funding actually goes. And definitely, if it has a distraction from other businesses, I believe in charter schools. When I was on this charter school, I told a couple of when I was on TUSD School Board, I told a couple of charter schools that it was my job to put them out of business, and they basically laughed at me, knowing that I was on TUSD School Board. I'm telling you, over 90% of the schools that we've closed in TUSD was because of charter schools. They're doing something that TUSD and public schools is not doing.
Okay.
Plain and simple. We need to learn from them, and then follow what they're doing. Again, 26% since.
Okay, we need to move on, Mr. Hicks. Ms. Wadsack, you wanted to say something?
Right. No, Representative Engel mentioned that the lower income families have the same tax that other families have, and you know, I understand that that may not sound fair, but property taxes aren't fair. And you know, think about all the people who don't have children that pay into the public schools out of their property taxes every year. Is that fair?
Right.
So that's an issue. And also, there have been billions of dollars that have been allocated to the schools over the last 2 years, and I still don't know why we are so we're so lacking in funding. Where is all the money? I mean, there is plenty of money flowing to education. It's just not flowing to the right parts of education. It's not going to the classrooms, and it's not going to the teachers. And what's really frustrating to me is that people look at Republicans as not supporting education, and they are wrong. It is one of our #1 issues. But we just don't view it the same way that Democrats do. And we believe now that the institution of public schools is one of the oldest institutions in America. And it's really time to start looking at it from a different perspective. And if we try to continue having all these children in the box, the big box school system, all these children who don't learn the same way, who don't learn the same speed, who don't have the same, they don't learn, some people are visual, some people are audio. We have special needs kids that are completely and utterly left out. Where are all the special needs kids during COVID-19? Nowhere. And their parents had to quit their jobs. And when all of the Red for Ed people walked out in 2018, I was left with not being able to work because I couldn't take my daughter somewhere because she's in diapers and at the time 15, 16. So a lot of parents are being left behind. A lot of children are being left behind. And I, again, want to know, where did the funding go? Where is it? Before we start asking for more, shouldn't we start reevaluating where it has gone?
Okay. We're running out of time, but I want to get to one more question. Defund the police. Would you support a reduction in police budgets to fund social programs and including a shift of some of police responsibilities to social workers? Let's start with you, Representative Engel.
Hank, the way you've asked that question, I agree with it. I don't. What I see is a shifting. What we need to do is shift where the money is going. Not every call to 911 requires a police officer to show up at your door. And we've had some bad situations when we have a police response to something that might be a mental health crisis. So what I would support is some screening so that the appropriate personnel respond to the crises that right now the police are forced to respond to. I went on a police ride along, and it really impacted me very much. And I saw what some of these police officers are doing in the course of just a few hours. Police officers were counseling families where a kid refused to go to school. They were dealing with somebody with a mental health breakdown that was wandering around in the streets. We had a burglary while I was doing this police ride along. And I was like, yes, now I'm in a police car and the police are doing what the police are trained to do. So yes, I would support a reallocation so that we get people who can handle the issues in our community with the expertise that they have. And these are mental health experts, behavioral health experts. We have a lot of drug abuse and drug addiction out there that we need to deal with. So yes, and we did ask for a special session on some of the police issues. We have issues of police departments not knowing about the disciplinary history of some police. So there's various things that we should be addressing.
All right, Ms. Wadsack.
Yeah, I am absolutely against defunding the police. I back the blue, I have made it very clear and very public that I support our police officers, our men and women in uniform. And I'll be honest with you, I'm 100% against defunding the police. In fact, we need more police. We need about 700 more police in Tucson, Arizona, to be exact. We're short-staffed, and those long response times, although when I've had to call the police twice in the last month and a half, they were here in 15 minutes, 10, 15 minutes tops. And so they are working overtime, they are working hard, and they don't have the money to support it. Police are there to protect Arizona citizens by enforcing law and order, and because all Americans have a right to safety and security. But I would also like to point out that the funding has really hurt our police departments. A lot of people will train them to be exceptional police officers, and then Phoenix shows up with, you know, a nicer paycheck, and we lose them all. So if you want to suggest, you know, replacing police officers with social workers, I see that as being a complete disaster very quickly, especially in the realm of criminal situations. It's just not going to work. But first and foremost, I want to say also, Kirsten Engel said that she was okay with shifting the money away from the police for other things, but we can't do the same thing for schools. So I don't understand how funding can be taken away from the police department and be given to mental health individuals and social workers. We can't take school funding and allocate it to school choice. So that seems to be a bit of a double standard, if you ask me. But that's my time. I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right. Miss Representative DeGrazia.
Thank you. So Hank, we need to make sure that the police budget fits the mission that they are tasked with. And we know that a lot of the call outs that come to 911 are for a variety of situations, and not all of them require a police response. So what I want to do is make sure that we look at what the tasks are and make sure that the police forces have the resources they need to carry out the duty of serving the public. Everybody wants and needs that the public be protected. There's no question about that. But what we want to do is make sure that the police have the resources they need. And if that means that we need to engage more folks that are trained in substance abuse issues, mental health issues, then that's where we need to go. There is a huge number of calls that did not necessarily pertain to criminal actions, where we could have some other expertise that's deployed that helps out. So I would certainly be in support of taking a look at that.
All right.
Can I jump in one more time? I had a lost moment of thought.
Quickly.
One of the reasons why I jumped into this race and left the congressional race was a specific bill, 1625. SB 1625 is the gun grab bill. So I'm curious why it's okay to defund the police and to take our guns. So you want to just leave Americans in Arizona defenseless completely?
Anyone care to respond?
That is a problem to me. We have the Second Amendment.
I don't know what bill she's talking about.
SB 1625. It was dropped by David Bradley. So if you're going to take his seat, I would think you'd know about the bill that's still on the table. So that is the gun grab bill. 1620. It was 1624, 1625, and 1626, I believe. It was 3 bills: the red flag bills, the gun grab bills that turned, you know, law-abiding citizens into felons if you owned a gun, and coming back and checking if you still have your gun, and where you have to re-register it every year. It was incredibly invasive. But if we don't have police and we don't have our Second Amendment, what are we supposed to do to protect ourselves? Especially what we've been watching lately with the fires in the streets and the riots. I'm sorry, but we cannot defund the police and know that our Democrat politicians that are running on both the state and the federal level in Arizona want to take our guns. So there you can't have both. So no.
Ms. Gummere?
No to defunding.
No to defunding. Absolutely not. This is an open carry state. I'm not giving up my firearms. And I don't believe that a social worker answering a 911 call is going to fix anything if it's a mental issue and they come after them with an axe. We need to fund our police. It's absurd. We'll have chaos. that just isn't going to work. It just is not going to work. I mean, I lived in a city where you could not have weapons, and the only people that had weapons were all the criminals and law enforcement. And there wasn't enough law enforcement. You know, people had to take to their own roofs to protect their property. No, defunding the police is absolutely ridiculous.
All right. Mr. Hicks.
No, I'm not in favor of defunding. I am in favor of looking at it and maybe restructuring parts of it. Currently, the city of Tucson's police department is severely underfunded already and severely understaffed. Miss Engel should know that if she did the right along with the police officers. They have stacks of calls that they have to do as soon as they get on their shift. So no. One of my issues is, do I believe that some calls should be handled by other individuals? Sure, that's not an issue. But one thing that I've not heard, but I have heard from individuals who are mental health experts and who said that we're going to go into a volatile situation. I never volunteered. This is from a counselor, and I've also talked to a social worker who said, there is no way I'm going to go into a house where there's a domestic violence going on and try to resolve that domestic violence. They're not going to do it. We keep saying we're going to send social workers, we're going to send counselors. Have we talked to the social workers? Have we talked to the counselors and said, would you be willing to do this? No, they have not. The ones that I've talked to, nobody's ever talked to them, but they're being volunteered to do things like this. I do believe and we can restructure our police department. We can have some individuals who are trained more into social working or counseling and those types, but there still need to be police officers. And they do get some of those trainings. So all in all, no, I am not in favor of defunding a department that's already underfunded, severely underfunded.
Okay. Stahl.
Hank, would you please just repeat the question one more time?
So, would you support a reduction in police budgets with a corresponding reduction, moving that money in social service and a corresponding reduction in responsibilities for police?
Thank you. I'm hearing a lot of defund, and I didn't believe that's what the question was asked of us. And so, a couple of thoughts along these lines. First of all, as a state legislature, this is not the only area where I think we have a say in any of this is looking at statutes for training. So it's not up to me to set a budget for our police workforce. That happens at the local level. So for me, I think, yes, I think resources need to be allocated wisely. I don't believe right now that we have a system that works, and I do think that we need to create some change. And if the way we do that is by looking at our training and setting up the state statutes at the academy, I think that's where we come at this issue as a state leader. Personally, I watch what happens on school campuses, and I'm going to go at the very local level, and I will answer the question qualifying that this is a local issue. And what I see happening on school campuses, and mind you, I've got 3 children and a husband in different schools throughout the district, I see at times a badge and a gun going into situations where a trained health expert, health professional, or behavior professional could go in and de-escalate a situation and create a win-win situation with a solution that addresses the need at hand. That being said, that is a local level. The state legislature does not have jurisdiction in that arena.
If I can just say, I am still a citizen of the city of Tucson, and I have the right to be able to voice that. Not just as a legislator, but as a citizen of Tucson, a long-term citizen of Tucson. I have that right to be able to say, no, do not defund my police department. Thank you.
Hank, can I just clarify? I don't think any of the Democratic candidates here want to defund in the nature of get rid of the police department or even reduce their budget. It is only a question of how that budget is allocated and what kind of response we have to those 911 calls. So the point that we're trying to make is not every call demands a uniformed police officer with a gun.
Well,
And I tried to structure the question that way because I think that's an honest reading of what most people who say defund the police are pushing for. Very few are talking about abolishing police stations, but it seems like the agreed upon definition of that movement is shifting money away from police into other governmental departments, social services.
that's
that
not
would-
what I'm saying in
Or
Portland.
even within the police department.
That's not what I'm saying in Portland. That's not what I'm saying in Chicago. That's not what I'm saying in other big cities. It is get rid of the police department,
That's right.
period. Watch the news.
And
They're saying get rid
Get
of
rid of
the
it.
police department. Look at what just happened in LA with the shooting right there, and then the demonstrators at the hospital, what they were saying.
let's look at this from the simplest form, and it's just the title of it, defund the police. What does that mean? Whether that means defund them and not give them any more money, or reduce their funds, or give their funds, half their funds to social workers. The general public does not want to defund the police. They want more police officers. They don't want social workers showing up when their husband's about to choke them out. They want a police officer that's going to detain that man who's either drunk or has had mental health issues. There's a lot of holes. There's holes in the CRC. There's holes because there's no place for the mentally ill to go. So they wind up going to CRC. They're held for 24 hours. They go to the gospel rescue mission, and then they're released onto the streets. What has legislature done for all of those people for the last God knows how long? Because I've watched people in the system and it's broken. So do not break it further by removing our law.
I would absolutely agree that we need more resources for dealing with mental health and substance.
100%.
We need to hire more.
I think we can end on that note. I think we all agree on that.
Yes, 100%. I agree with you.
All right. Before we get to closing comments, I will have a number of angry viewers if I do not ask you, Ms. Wadsack, to address your support for QAnon.
I am
Social
actually,
media.
that is a partisan issue, and I'll be honest with you, I'm really getting tired of this. Kirsten Engel can smirk all she wants. She went on to an article, and everybody's going to say the same thing. This is what the Democrats are doing to Republicans, guys. You are all smearing us because you know that we are strong in our values and strong in our issues. So what do? You find some strange thing to latch onto. I've had 6 different reporters call me and ask me if I believe in QAnon, and I've said no each and every time. But do they take no for an answer? No. They write the article anyway. And then what happens is that Democrat followers and they go and take it and they run with it, and it's disgusting. I've had personal and physical and death threats on me. Is that okay? Is that what I signed up for? Running for office because I'm Republican to get death threats? All of you should be ashamed of yourselves for what you do with this QAnon BS. It is absolute just politics.
So to be clear, are you
I
saying
want to know why clean elections would allow a identity politic type question to get in. Is you're going to ask everybody that same question?
no? I'm only asking you because you're the only person who's expressed support for QAnon. So
I
are
have
you
not
do
expressed?
not support?
I've said it now 8 times.
8 times.
Okay.
Let this be the 8th time. And if anybody else wants to talk about it, come and talk to me. But the problem is you don't. So then it becomes these issues. You guys have attacked every Republican running. Every Republican running has been attacked with this QAnon or some sort of patriot type thing. And it's disgusting, to be honest with you. This is dirty politics.
I don't think Mr. Hicks has had to address this issue at all. So we're moving to closing comments.
I don't even know what it is.
There you go.
And I've said the same things. So to be honest with you, this topic is over.
Okay, great. Closing comments. Ms. Stahl Hamilton, will you start us off?
Yes, thank you. It's been a wonderful hour and 45 minutes to be here, to have a chance to tell the voters who I am, why I'm running, to see my perspective on critical issues that our state faces. You may learn more about me on my website at hamilton4house.com. That's Hamilton, the number 4, house.com. I'm a mom, an ordained minister, a wife, a concerned citizen who believes that Arizona's resources need wise investments, and we can do a better job for a more sustainable future for the next generations to come.
Thank you very much. Mr. Hicks?
Okay, I want to again thank Clean Elections, and I also want to thank all of the participants in this. I honestly do appreciate your thoughts and your comments that you brought forward. I do believe that I am the best candidate to go to the House. I have shown that I have commitment and that I've done what I've said I was going to do, and that I do commit to serving the citizens of Tucson, all of the citizens of Tucson, in regards to economic development, healthcare, dental care, public safety, education, and public works, and water, transportation. As I've said before, I was 23 years in the transportation department. I know where all the potholes are. I also ride a motorcycle. I can tell you where all the potholes are. I can tell you why traffic signals are doing what they're doing and why they're not funded the way that they should be funded and where that money is. I just want everyone to know that I am your candidate. I am your individual, and I will be your voice for LD10 in the state legislature, and I will work with you, all of you. Doesn't matter if you're independent, party not defined, Democrat, Republican. I believe the things that I stand for transverses all parties. Everything that I stand for affects all of us as citizens of Tucson. And you can look at me up at Hicks, the number 4, Tucson.com. And I appreciate everyone, and I appreciate you, Hank, for being steadfast in your ability to handle us. So, and again, thank all the participants.
Thank you, Mr. Hicks. Ms. Gummere, your closing statements?
Thank you, Hank. You did a great job. Thank you, everyone watching, and all of the candidates they were wonderful. Everybody behaved themselves, and I think we got our points across. I would like to thank Clean Elections, because without Clean Elections, I wouldn't have the campaign that I have going. I'm looking forward to being in the legislature. It's something that I can bring my knowledge, my business experience, my budgetary experience to the table there, and be able to be your voice for everyone watching, to be your voice. I will be accessible. Thousands of you know that I've always been accessible in the business that I had, and I'm a person that believes in good ideas and standing in the way of bad ideas. I think there needs to be some more transparency. We need to know where the money's gone. There is money that can be brought to education. And the recovery, that's also going to have to be worked out. It's not a cut and dry, easy answer. I've stayed up at night thinking of ways that money can be drawn from here or there, but we all have to work together. And I plan to represent all of you and take all your thoughts to the Capitol and work for you. This will be 110% of my time. I don't work anymore. So I'm dedicating all of my time to it. And I'm doing this because Tucson has been very good to me for the last quarter century. And it's time, it's my civic duty to do this. I know how to manage money. I know how to make deals. And I know that I can bring an improvement to what's been going on, because frankly, I have not seen very much of a change since I came here in '94. We're still at the bottom when it comes to education, and there's like, you know, we're hashing the same thing over again. It has to be looked at. We have to see where it's gone, why it's going where it's going, and I'm the person that can help do that. So I ask you humbly for your vote, and I promise you, you will not be sorry. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you, Ms. Gummere. Ms. Representative DeGrazia.
Thanks, Hank, and thanks to the Citizens Clean Election for hosting this debate. Once again, my name is Domingo DeGrazia. I'm running for re-election to the Arizona House in LD10. Arizona's in the middle of a pandemic, and we need experience at the Capitol to help Arizonans through this. I'm ready. I know the legislature. I know the workflow process. I know the statutes. I know the law. The law is complex, and the legislative process requires not only study but careful consideration. We've seen here tonight references to bills that didn't even come up. They weren't even assigned, which means that they were effectively dead. Yet there was some consternation about them, which doesn't do anyone any good. You know, in my time at the Capitol, I was assigned to the Committee on Rules, which looks at the constitutionality and proper form of every bill that comes through the House. I was on the Judiciary Committee, where Representative Engel was our ranking member, where we looked at criminal justice reform bills. I was also on government that looked at all manner of bills that comes through that affect how our state operates and how it interacts with our local governments. I was also on the Ethics Committee, which was looking at how our members conduct themselves. There's a lot of work that is yet to do at the Capitol, everything from housing to unemployment to funding our schools to protecting our environment. All of those are still top priorities. They are still top of mind. I'm ready to go to work. I have a proven voting record that I am proud of, and I'm ready to represent Tucson. I'm asking for your support, for your consideration, and your vote. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And to the voters, remember, you do get to choose 2 candidates for the State House races. Our Senate candidates, Ms. Wadsack, closing statements.
Yes, I would like to thank you. I know that this has not been an easy experience for you, having to be the middleman between everybody, but I want to thank you for this. And I want to thank Clean Elections because, to be honest with you, with social media today, voters don't get an opportunity to really hear and see the candidates for what we really are and what we really stand for. All they hear is noise, and the noise they hear is from, you know, usually people who are trying to hurt the other side. So it's very important to vet your candidate, look that candidate up, and contact the candidate and ask some questions. My door is open. I always answer people. I'm very, very much in tune with making sure that people know the truth from me. I want to take my personal experience in advocacy and activism and focus on opening Arizona. I know that we've flattened the curve. It's time to get us back to Arizona. Let's get us back to business. But I stand and I jumped into this race for citizens' rights. I believe that people need to know their rights so that they can recognize when they're being violated. I stand for parents' rights because next to the U.S. Constitution, a parent's rights are the most inalienable rights. And I also stand for medical freedom. I don't want to see anybody forced to take a vaccine that they don't want to take. I also stand for school choice, as you know, and education reform and funding, because I want to find out what is happening. Law and order is very important to me. I do want to have reform in our DCS system. I do feel that there is a great need to reform the manner in which children are separated from their parents and the lack of due process. Disaster contingencies and government overreach is an obvious when it comes to the order that our governor is performing on. I believe in freedom and liberty. Economic recovery, job growth, and new opportunity. We are in an amazing state, and but we've lost a lot already. I also stand for criminal justice reform. I believe when a person has served their time, they've paid their debt to society. Why are they being penalized afterwards? They should never be penalized after they've paid their debt. If you pay your debt at Walmart, if you pay your debt at the grocery store, you're done. You shouldn't have to be penalized. They should be allowed to vote again, and also be able to get a gun if they qualify, depending on the actual crime. I don't believe that pedophiles, murderers, and serial killers should be allowed out. I think there's some differentials there. But I also I'm taking care of my elderly mother. I'm also taking care of my disabled daughter, and I understand the problems and the holes within Alpex access, and that there just really isn't anything for people. There, you have to either make nothing or you have to make $4,000 to have some place to live. What's happening with all these people in the middle? Healthcare, insurance, mental health, and veteran needs. All very important to me, and these are my concerns. So I am here for all of you. I'm always listening, and I want to make sure that you know that I'm here to help you when you need me. So please vote for Justine Wadsack. I look forward to an opportunity to serve you all in Phoenix as your next senator. Represent Pima County.
Thank you, Ms. Wadsack.
Thank you.
And Representative Engel.
Yes, I'd also like to thank the Clean Elections Commission and you, Hank, for being our moderator. This now going 2 hours, so I will make this short. We are in the middle of a pandemic. It's a public health crisis. It's also an economic crisis. And it's been made worse by a lot of things that we have not addressed in our state, such as our education system. And it's good to hear so much consensus on this debate on how we need to put more resources into our education. Of course, being accountable in how that money is spent, but we need to invest in education. The pandemic has to be the top priority. And there's other issues, though, that we also need to work on. Ever since the legislature went out of session, I have been working for my constituents to get them the benefits that they're entitled to so that they can stay home while they're not being paid, so that we can get these numbers down, so that we can open up. That is what the scientists are telling us. And that is the smartest way to go. When we opened up too quickly back in May, what happened? We were basically the laughingstock of the world because we had out of control infection rates. So I see myself as a science-based decision maker. I do believe in vaccines. I'm looking forward to getting a vaccine for COVID-19 so that we can be safe. And we should also be paying attention to some of the other issues that are very much affecting Arizona right now that the scientists have been telling us about for years, such as climate change. So hotter and hotter days, more wildfires, we should be addressing that too. I'm also looking forward to a more respectful engagement, and I think we've had a bad time in our history. It's coming from the very top in terms of just our everyday interaction, and we need to return to the trust in our civic relationships. And I would like to contribute to that. We are all on this debate. We are all running for being a part of our government. And that must be because we believe there are things that government can do to help people. So we must believe in the process at some level. And so we need to respect that process, use it for the good of our constituents. And it's good to hear of a lot of the consensus on not only on education, but on criminal justice reform, another issue that I have spent a lot of time on and would like to address when I go back. I do think that if you serve your time, you should be able to vote. So bringing us back into civic and civil society has to be part of our response as a society and as a state as we return to normal and get through this pandemic. So thank you.
Thank you all. To the candidates who spent the last 2 hours here, I appreciate you not hanging up. To the voters who are watching this and informing themselves before the November election, thank you very much. The Citizens Clean Elections Commission is your source for nonpartisan voter information. We encourage you to visit azcleanelections.gov for all your voting needs. Thanks so much, everyone. You can hang up now.
Thank you.
Thank you.